And now, today's featured speakers are Meghan Charbonneau and Valerie, class of 1997, both of whom are senior academic advisors in the Office of Academic Services. Meghan Charbonneau has been an academic advisor at Bentley for 10 years. In addition to academic advising, she enthusiastically coordinates all of the transfer student programming from initial onboarding and registration to their advising and transfer seminar experience. She enjoys supporting Bentley students through all their important transitions. Valerie is a Bentley alumna from the class of 1997. She has been part of the advising team for 5 years and previously served as a transfer admission counselor at Bentley for 8 years. In addition to her daily advising efforts with undergraduate students and students in the advanced standing and finance programs, she is one of the coordinators for the office's programs and events, from the academic programs fair to pop-up advising to academic planning for study abroad. Whether your programming efforts or individual meetings, she relishes the opportunity to serve as a resource for students as they determine their goals at Bentley and take steps to achieve them. Without further ado, please join me in virtually welcoming Meghan and Valerie.
Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you've made the time to join us today. I'm going to take a few minutes to take us through the agenda. We will begin by explaining how academic advising works at Bentley. We will then move on to a curriculum overview, along with the developmental expectations that go along with the curriculum throughout the years. We want to make a special note at this point. While we've laid this out in a 4-year model, we want you to keep in mind that this process isn't always strictly linear, and your students may be moving through this in a slightly different way, a different place developmentally and in the curriculum as well. Next, we'll give an overview of the available support services that we have here at Bentley. And we'll end with, of course, I'm sure a question you all have: how can you help your student through all of this or any of this? And we will do our very best to leave enough time for some Q&A at the end.
So we want to begin by discussing our advising model here at Bentley. And we have 2 slightly different models, one designed for first-year students and one designed for transfer students. But both of those approaches provide academic support for students from start to finish of their Bentley experience. So first-year students will be students who join us right out of high school and that don't have prior college experience. In their first term with us, they'll take a seminar course called First Year Seminar. And that seminar is designed to help them adjust to college life, particularly from an academic perspective. The seminar has a faculty instructor as well as a peer leader, and the faculty instructor is the student's assigned academic advisor for their first year at Bentley. The peer leader is there to serve as a mentor, both through that kind of early phase of the student's Bentley experience and throughout the coming years. So even though the faculty advisor serves as the student's assigned advisor for that year, first-year students are more than welcome to utilize the services offered by our office. I'll talk about those more in a moment. And they do indeed connect with us throughout their first year, which is great to see. After the first year, students who joined us right out of high school are assigned a professional advisor in our office, and that will be their advisor throughout the balance of their tenure. Although they have an assigned advisor, they're eligible to see any advisor who they wish, whether that's because they made a connection with somebody else or perhaps schedules align better. So they certainly have the full array of resources available to them, but their assigned advisor will be the advisor who is officially kind of in the loop about key things throughout their experience, and the student would see, for regular check-ins as it might be helpful. Transfer students, we define as students who join Bentley after spending a semester or more of coursework at another institution. These students will take transfer seminar in their first term with us, which is essentially the transfer equivalent of first year seminar, but recognizes that these students have prior college experience. They're not starting out brand new, from a university perspective, but they don't yet know the Bentley specifics. So transfer seminar is really designed to help them make that transition successfully to Bentley and learn some key information about resources and opportunities that are available to them throughout their Bentley experience. The instructor of the transfer seminar course is one of the professional advisors in our office, and that advisor would be the transfer student's assigned advisor throughout their entire Bentley tenure. This enables us to get to know the student quite well, work with them to understand their transfer credit and how it applies to the Bentley curriculum requirements, and also kind of make that relationship as productive as possible, because almost by definition, transfer students have less time at Bentley in which to achieve their goals than if they had joined us right out of high school. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how students can connect with our office, and there are 3 primary ways that they do so, either through drop-ins, through appointments, or through programming. I should mention that in addition to this, we have a general email account and individual advisor email addresses that are also heavily utilized. But drop-ins we hold weekdays from 11 to 3, and they're held this fall via Zoom. They're typically staffed by a peer advisor, and so our peer advisors are typically upper class students who are highly trained, and they are there to answer quick, basic questions. So drop-ins are the perfect opportunity if a student suddenly thinks of a question, doesn't require a full appointment, but they just want to get some insight that can help inform a potential next step. We do also offer extended drop-ins during particularly busy times. This is oftentimes at the start of the term or during registration for the subsequent term, to provide additional opportunities for students to connect with either a professional or a peer advisor during those busy times. And when we say that we offer drop-ins between 11 and 3, that provides students the opportunity to come at any point in that 4-hour window, and again, have a quick question answered. For students who might be looking to discuss something that requires more time, more detail to get into, appointments are the perfect opportunity for them to do so. Appointments for us are scheduled in 30-minute increments, and they enable more extensive conversations, discussions about establishing or reaching students' academic goals at Bentley, perhaps some long-range planning, discussing periods of academic difficulty as they come up, maybe major or minor selection. So again, they enable the student to have more lengthy conversations about these topics. The advising appointments are scheduled through Workday, which is the student's primary information system, and are scheduled with our academic advisors. And then on the programming front, this was mentioned a bit earlier in my introduction, but we do offer a variety of programming throughout each term. We have upcoming our academic programs fair, which is a valuable resource and opportunity for students to connect with faculty members from all departments to learn more about the academic programs, namely majors and minors that are offered by those departments. So students can start gathering information that can help them inform the decisions that they need to make about their academic programs. Pop-up advising is an opportunity for us to connect with students off hours, so either early in the day or later in the day, to, again, be another resource, help address quick questions. Pop-up advising certainly does not require an appointment. In addition to having pop-up advising during busy times in the term, we are also offering a special weekly pop-up for this fall. It's held Wednesdays from 8 to 9 a.m., and it is designed to, be a better time for students who might be studying this fall from time zones well outside of the Eastern time zone, and therefore be a little more convenient. When we host events, we will have that information posted on our website. We have a programs and events page there. We also, as you can imagine, promote those events quite heavily via email. I also wanted to mention that by and large, students are not required to meet with an advisor or their assigned advisor, but we are a dedicated resource for them to help them, kind of meet their goals, answer questions, and we encourage students to connect with us whenever it might be helpful for them. So now we're going to start breaking down into kind of year by year, both curriculum and developmental milestones that we look for students to have and help guide them through. So the first year, of course, is largely about transition and acclimation. It's this time to adjust to college life, and more specifically, college life at Bentley. So during this time, students are really facing a variety of adjustments from an academic perspective, social perspective, co-curricular opportunities, and of course the lifestyle adjustment that comes with your first term at college or first term at a new university. And as you can imagine, things are perhaps a little more complicated for some students this year given the COVID circumstances that we're all operating within. So on the left side of this slide, you can see the curriculum requirements for the first year experience at Bentley. There are 2 primary areas that are covered in the first year, and those are our general education requirements. So this would be the typical liberal arts coursework that you might see at any institution, but with a Bentley spin on some of them. And then, of course, our general business core classes, our GB classes. which is a series that extends over all 4 years and is really, I think, one of the hallmarks of the Bentley curriculum, as it provides students with foundational knowledge in a variety of business disciplines. In addition to kind of those Gen Ed and GB requirements for the first year, students also take 2 seminars. So I've talked about first year seminar, that's taken in the student's first term. So for right now, it would be in the fall term. And then there's also a career development seminar that you may have heard about if you attended the career services presentation today. And that is offered in the spring for first year students and serves as their introduction to their work with the Career Development Center throughout their time here. The curriculum requirements in the first year are generally consistent regardless of a student's intended major. The primary exception to that would be the mathematical science sequence. We have 2 different math tracks, and students who are thinking about any kind of math-related majors, that would be mathematical science, data analytics, actuarial science, or our new quantitative economics major, they would be required to take the traditional Calculus 1 and 2 track, and then the other track is an applied Calculus 1 and 2 that's applicable to any other major and would meet those degree requirements. Students are placed in math, one of those math tracks in the summer prior to their enrollment. Those details are determined by the math department. And so your students, if they're in their first year, are already down their path with that. The other portion of the curriculum that uses a placement process is expository writing. And so new students complete an essay the summer prior to their enrollment, and that determines which track of expository writing they're working on. There are some different variations designed for students who might need some more time kind of, with classroom interaction for expository writing, and also some sections designed for students whose first language is not English. When we move to the right side of this chart, of this slide, we're really starting to talk about many of the key developmental milestones that happened this year. And as we talk about kind of the academic piece of it, a huge part of this is adjusting a student kind of adjusting their academic approach. There are very likely many study skills that serve them very well in high school that they will continue to utilize at Bentley, and that will make them quite successful in their courses. But because the structure of college courses are different, they may also find that they need to tweak some of those skills. And so this first term of your university experience enables them to start making those adjustments and seeing what's working well and what's not. Hand in hand with that is that time management is key. This is a phase in life when students are spending less time in classroom, in lectures, but they have more time to work on their corresponding coursework outside of class. And that also means they have more discretionary time that needs to be managed and managed well. I think one of the biggest challenges in a first term of college is feeling like you've got all the time in the world and suddenly the week gets away from you and you're up against a deadline. And then compounding that, we have an environment where there are a lot of fantastic and wonderful kind of opportunities for students to get involved in, whether that's student organizations or specific events. And so they can sometimes feel pulled between, using their free time for their classwork or trying to make those social connections that are also key in that first term and the first year. And we do want them to spend time making connections this year, both in terms of their fellow classmates, faculty, staff, to really learn about the resources that are available to assist them on their Bentley journey. And I think in particular, when it comes to interacting with faculty, sometimes it can take a little bit of time for students to feel comfortable engaging in those interactions. We talk through with them through their first year seminar class what office hours are and how to use them, but I think sometimes that can feel a little intimidating. So I think part of the developmental process for this first term is for students to feel comfortable approaching faculty and utilizing office hours effectively. And as I mentioned, there are a variety of resources, many offices on campus that are here to serve students. That's our passion, that's what we do. And I think one of the things that's important for students is to not be afraid to ask questions if they're not sure which office to go to for whatever their question might be or the issue that they're trying to resolve. And so to really reach out, whether that's through their RA, through their faculty member, through the staff member that they're talking about with something else. But again, to feel comfortable and know that they are welcome to ask those questions, even if it seems unrelated to the matter at hand, and the person they're speaking with will help them find the appropriate resource. In general, I typically look at the first term as a time for students to begin to determine anyway, what works and what doesn't, particularly when it comes to their approach to their academics. To start making those adjustments with the goal that after they've had time to reflect over winter break, when spring courses begin, that hopefully they're starting to hit their stride and they have some strategies that they feel are well suited to them and their courses here. And as I alluded to, this is also the year for students to really begin exploring opportunities. There may be some particular opportunities available here at Bentley, and that's the reason why students chose to come to Bentley. There may also be a variety of things that aren't on their radar, and that as they go through their time, they hear about, they hear other students referring to, they get an email about something that sounds interesting. And so using their free time this year to begin researching those things that intrigue them, start gathering information. This is not the time where they probably have to make many decisions, and so that gives them some space to, again, gather information, see what's rising to the top for them, and begin to articulate how they want to spend their time at Bentley and kind of what do they see the next few years looking like.
Okay. And moving on to the second year at Bentley, for some students, that will be their sophomore year, we expect that they're going to continue the exploration that Valerie was just discussing and hopefully begin to make some meaningful connections across the curriculum, and then between the curriculum and all the wonderful co-curricular activities they've begun to delve into, and really begin to form what it is that they're looking to keep exploring, and maybe narrowing their field even more and getting ready to make some really important decisions. Sophomore year or the second year is a big time for decisions to be made. And I do feel like in all of my experience working with students through this particular transition, it feels like it might sneak up on them a little bit. So we're really attentive to that during this type of experience. But to delve a little bit deeper into the curriculum, the students do have the opportunity to take a second career development seminar, which may have been discussed earlier today in a previous presentation, but in case you weren't able to attend, this career development seminar really helps the students explore where their talents and their interests might hopefully align with a potential career path. So a student who's undecided in major, we can kind of really make a connection and say they're really not too sure what they want their career path to be either. And those things can kind of help inform each other. So that CDI 201 it's not mandatory, but it's highly recommended if students would find value in that sort of exploration. It's 6 weeks, once a week. It's hopefully an easy sell if you would like your student to attend it. Certainly encourage them to do that. And students in this year continue to move through the curriculum. We're exposing them to more general business topics. We're exposing them to micro and macroeconomics if they haven't taken it previously at another institution, or if they don't have prior credit for it. They also get some great exposure to marketing and to management. And the idea is hopefully throughout all of this wonderful curriculum exploration and everything else they're working on, they're starting to feel ready to, from that narrowed field, hopefully, choose a major, choose what a minor might be. Are they interested in an optional second major? So those are right away, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 decisions they have to make, as a sophomore student. So those are things we want to support them with, and of course you'll be supporting them from home as well. And as students begin to make these decisions and can begin to see into the future what their career goals might be, what types of internships they might be interested in, they can begin working more intensively with career services. There's lots of opportunity, even virtually, to do lots of networking, we promise. They're busier now, I feel, than before. They're just, busy virtually. So internship opportunities and networking opportunities through career services. Another really important decision that will happen this year is the decision to apply to study abroad. The way study abroad works at Bentley, hopefully in a post-pandemic world, the students will apply basically a full year before they go. So if anyone is thinking, I might want to go abroad next academic year, the time to apply is approaching. The application will open up in November, and it will close sometime late January, sometimes early February. So there's lots of time this term to attend events, peruse the website, connect with study abroad advisors, and really kind of decide, is this an experience I want? If so, what do I want it to look like? I think there's lots of time and thought always put into what region of the world do I want to be in? What types of school, what type of courses, you know, do you want to go to a business school that kind of will feel similar to Bentley, or do you want to try a liberal arts school and take basket weaving? You know, so there's lots of different opportunities. And something that I personally feel a lot of times students don't think of in the onset of their research is, what do I want my living scenario to be while I'm abroad? And Bentley has programs that have all kinds of different living options, but some programs have limited living options. And the standard 3 living options would be living in a residence hall, just like they might at Bentley, living in an apartment off campus, just like they might as a Bentley student. And the third option, which we don't necessarily have, but maybe you could arrange your own, is a homestay. So in another country, you know, you could become a part of somebody else's family and really immerse yourself in that family and that culture. So that's a really unique part of the study abroad application process that I personally feel a lot of times students kind of take that as an afterthought. I would love to see more of them weave that in a little bit sooner, and, you know, consider what they're looking for in their experience. So I guess the final thing I'd like to maybe add about this sophomore year before we move on to junior year, just a little bit more about if your student is a transfer student and, you know, they're coming in, this is their first year, but they're kind of a sophomore already. You know, they may be working through some of that curriculum on the first slide. They may be doing some of that exploring that we saw that Valerie talked about on the first slide. But they also have to start making these decisions, right? So we have a really great support system for them with their 6-week transfer seminar right away and their assigned advisors. So they do have to think faster, decide faster, but we're here to support them every step of the way. And I have to find my cursor, here it is. And moving along to junior year, you know, the decisions have been made ideally in a perfect world. When students are more than halfway done with their Bentley career, they should be ideally in their major of choice that they intend to stick with. They should have any supplementary academic programs decided on, whether that's a secondary major, maybe a minor, maybe 2. We allow you to have 2 if you want. And, you know, really start to kind of focus on, you know, they'll be in the heart of their major coursework and hopefully able to really continue to make these connections. And they're still narrowing a field, but the field they're now narrowing is, well, what's my next internship going to be? You know, what experience do I want in the field so I can continue, you know, to move towards whatever my career goals are. And that's something that, you know, career services can continue to help them articulate. There actually is a 3rd seminar. And that is very tailored towards specific majors. In this seminar, it's a Career Development 301, and it will help the students really prepare for getting their next opportunity. For some, it might be an internship. For some, it might be that first full-time offer. And that is delivered by their career coach and in their chosen major field. So that's something that we will continue to encourage them. We know you'll help us to take advantage of these seminars if they feel like they would benefit them. And then really for the curriculum, you can see there's less and less general business core that they're going through. But the general business core that happens in this year is very beneficial and hopefully very influential for their future. The first course is the Business Processes and Systems course, and it really kind of gives them a glimpse into, you know, not how to build them, but how to operate them, how to use them. And they will do real projects on this software and learn, you know, when they go to their internship supervisor might be like, well, we got to take 2 weeks to teach you how to use this. And hopefully they'll say, oh, I know that. I already learned that at Bentley. Uh, so hopefully that's really beneficial for them in their future. The other course is their general business field project. And this is a super unique to Bentley opportunity, we feel. Real companies come to Bentley, they clamor. They want our students to work on their problems. So a real company will come with a real problem, and that it doesn't have to be a negative problem. It could be like, oh, we're a hot sauce company and we want to expand into the chutney market. That's a real one. I didn't make that up. So the students will be able to research this in small groups for the whole term from every different lens of their business education. What an opportunity, right? And we work really hard to present this like an opportunity to them because it's quite a lot of work, right? But at the end, not only are they presenting what their business plan is for a grade, they're presenting it to the company that came with this problem. And for each company, they select a winner. So one group, many groups work on each project, and the company will say, okay, we'll do this plan. They win. So again, a really great opportunity. And I think the students are always able to look back and articulate, wow, I'm so glad I got to do that. But certainly throughout a course like that, it's extremely time consuming. So we do continue to work with students on how do I manage something like this? How do I balance my time? And that course is certainly a really great topic of conversation for us in our advising meetings. So some other just opportunities that, we want you and your students to keep an eye out for continuing on through the junior year. If the students are thinking, I might want to stay, become a double Falcon, right? That's what we call people that get a bachelor's and a master's here. We have an extremely great opportunity for them. Valerie's going to talk more about that in a minute. But in their junior year, we want them to start thinking about, is grad school part of my plan? If so, is it now? Is it in 2 years from my graduation after I've had some experience? So, beginning to figure out what are my goals, and what is my timeline looking like, and kind of maybe looking through the binoculars a little bit ahead. Not just looking at senior year anymore, of course. We're going to look even further and see what else we can, maybe envision for ourselves.
And just like that, we're at senior year. I don't know if we have any senior parents joining us, but sometimes it feels like a student's undergraduate experience goes by quickly. It often feels that way for us when we're working with them. And that's a sentiment that students often share with us, that they can't believe it's already senior year. So senior year is really a combination of finishing up, the student finishing up their Bentley to-do list and preparing for that transition into the workplace or into graduate school. So from a curriculum perspective, this is really where they need to make sure that they have dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's and that they're meeting all of their degree requirements. So they might have, a few courses left in their major, maybe a final minor course or two. Oftentimes they're finishing up electives at this point in their studies. From a GB perspective, they have just one GB course at senior year, and this is essentially the capstone course for the GB experience. It's a global strategy course, and it's really drawing upon what they've learned in all of those prior GB courses. But again, they want to make sure that that they are on track to meet those degree requirements at the end of senior year. We encourage students at the start of their senior year to make sure that they're checking their student audit to confirm that they are on track, and certainly to consult with us if they have any questions or want a second set of eyes to confirm that that's the case. For many students, they might be in the midst of or finishing up leadership roles for student organizations that they're a part of, right? So they're still balancing those commitments. For many of them, they probably have a job search that's underway. So working with career services to identify what's that opportunity going to be waiting for them after they complete their studies. They may be apartment hunting, setting up utilities, kind of doing all of those adulting things that I'm sure you've all taught them so well. And one of the things that I think we try to do when we're working with seniors is, in the midst of all of this busyness and making sure that they're on track for everything, to encourage them to take time for some reflection, to really think about the explicit and the implicit lessons that they've learned over the last few years, both inside the classroom and outside of it. What are those key lessons that they're going to take with them, both wherever they go professionally, but also personally, and how that can help enhance their personal life. and also thinking about how they want to spend their final months and weeks as an undergraduate student. This is a really special time, I think, in an individual's life, and because it will go by quickly, to be intentional about those choices. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge to stay motivated. Senioritis can be a very real thing, and so, you know, encouraging students to really stay focused, keep their eye on the prize in those final months. And I think, you know, this is also a time where it's important for students, and this is an area where you all can probably help them, to recognize the emotions that sometimes accompany this transition, that it has been a special time. You know, they probably won't have another occasion where they are living in a community with, you know, most of their best friends, and have created, you know, experiences that will last a lifetime. And so I think starting to address some of the emotions as you transition out of that and having a support system to do that is really helpful. And then, of course, one of our favorite things to do is to really celebrate their accomplishments with them. I never cease to be amazed at how much our students accomplish during their time with us, how much they pack into those handful of years. And so really, you know, celebrating that with them and honoring all that they've done as an undergraduate is a key part of the experience. I think, and particularly for them, it can also help mark that transition into the next phase of their life. It's now a little bit about the Falcon Fast Track that Meghan had referred to. This is essentially a streamlined application process through which Bentley undergraduate students can look to continue their studies at the graduate level, again, with a quicker application process. Our office does not do graduate advising, or I should say our team doesn't. The graduate advisors that we share space with focus on that, but did just want to touch base a little bit about this today. So the Falcon Fast Track application process is an option for students whose undergraduate overall GPA is a 3.2 or above. And what that enables them to do is utilize that streamlined application process, waiving the GMATs or GREs, the application fee is waived, and it's open to students of any undergraduate major, so they don't have to have a specific, you know, major as an undergrad to participate in this. But it also enables them to do, this is one option through which they can do a blended term in their final semester. So if they are finishing up spring of senior year, and if they need fewer than 5 undergraduate classes to earn their bachelor's degree, they can take 1 or 2 graduate courses to, again, begin working towards that graduate program. The key is that they're capped at a maximum of 5 courses in that term, and again, only 1 or 2 of those can be graduate courses. But again, for students who are moving on to graduate school at Bentley through the Falcon Fast Track application process, this can be a convenient way to get started on that. Students who move on to graduate coursework through the Falcon Fast Track application process have 5 years to complete, up to 5 years to complete their graduate program requirements. And the number of courses can vary based on program and also the student's particular circumstances in terms of pre-program foundation courses that might be waived. So we encourage students who are interested in this option to connect with one of our graduate advising colleagues to learn more about the details. But again, because students don't need to apply through the Falcon Fast Track program until senior year, it gives them some time. And as Meghan was referring to, junior year is oftentimes a really good time for them to start researching and then start moving forward with action steps in senior year for this.
All right, so we're going to move on and discuss a little bit about how the university as a whole and our office specifically are supporting students in their academic success. So the model for academic success at Bentley and academic support is anytime a student has a question, a concern, any type of query about a course, first and foremost, we always encourage them to reach out to their professor. Here at Bentley, faculty really enjoy when students come to visit them. I often encourage students, you know, in their first 1 to 4 weeks of the semester, pop into office hours just to say hi and tell your professor a little bit about yourself. And then, you know, that serves 37 different purposes. But first and foremost, I think it kind of demystifies the whole process, right? Jump into office hours, see it doesn't hurt. No, you know, it's painless, it's awesome. And if they make that connection, however, big or small it might be, they're so much more likely to go back to them in a time of need, right? We know that about our students. It can be difficult to ask for help, but you're much more likely to ask for help of someone whom you're comfortable with, right? So we want them to connect with their professor. Maybe their question or query can be cleared up in office hours. If students need continued support throughout specific coursework, the second step would be to go to the appropriate learning center. And as you can see, we have a lot of them here on the left. So I won't explain each one. We thought I would maybe hit upon ones that were kind of more of an abbreviation and you would have no hint as to what it was. So the first one is the CLIC Lab. That is the Center for Languages and International Collaboration. Students wanting support in any modern language courses taught at Bentley can go here. I will say at the onset now, every single learning center or lab has virtual options. Some of them also have a small component of in-person options as well, but everything is at least virtual. So all of these labs and learning centers are available for students even during our online learning term. So another one that maybe isn't obvious is the LEAF. That is the Laboratory for Economics, Accounting, and Finance. So that's a big one, right? Anyone with students in GB 112, 212, any accounting-based courses, any economics-based courses, any finance-based courses, you're going to want to direct your student to go to that specific laboratory for assistance. They have really great tutors that are available on a drop-in basis. So you can certainly expect a lot of great support throughout through many parts of our curriculum. To be honest, this is a big one at the LEAF. Another one that maybe isn't super obvious. I'll go down to the last one, the ESOL Center. So that is for English speakers of other languages. This is an extremely important support for our students. Our students whose first language is not English. This center can support them through any of their coursework and help them access it in a different way and support them through, whatever challenges they might have within the language portion of any class. So we've done step one, right? We've done step two, go to the appropriate learning center. If a couple visits to their professor isn't enough help, if a couple, a week or two of going to the appropriate learning center isn't enough, the next step to get support in any courses at Bentley would be to request tutoring. We have, through our office, a supportive tutoring program, and the student would just need to fill out a form, have their faculty member refer them, and then they would go through a very brief intake process with our office to assess what their needs are, assess what might be the best tutoring model for them based on whatever the course might be. Some of our tutoring support is in very small groups. Some of our tutoring support is available one-to-one. So all of that can be sussed out through our intake process, but the extreme partnership that I would like to request of you all is to implore your student, do not suffer in silence. If they need help, all they have to do is reach out, right? Look at this slide, it's so full of help. And so to that end, if they're not sure where to go, if they don't know what lab is appropriate for them, well, we know. So send them to us and we will connect them wherever they are in this process of wanting or needing more support in any courses, we can certainly help them. And just a little bit more about the other supports within our office. As I mentioned, the tutoring program is housed in our office, so they will be connecting with our team if they end up requesting tutoring for any specific course. The Office of Disability Services is housed within our office, so if your student maybe had an individualized education plan or a 504 plan in high school or a previous institution, and you all feel like it might be time to get something like that going at Bentley, we encourage you to encourage your student to reach out for a consultation appointment. That is something that I think we've seen over the years. Sometimes students from, high school, college might say, oh, I got this. I don't need to set this up. They need to set it up. So that's certainly something we would really appreciate your partnership with. And I know the Disability Services Office would appreciate it too. We want to support them as much we can and lift them up all the time, but especially in times where they might be having, any type of academic difficulty. And the last kind of piece of, the support network we create for them is the interim grade report. So this is a really awesome opportunity. Listen how easy this is. If a faculty member is at all concerned about a student's progress in a course, they just have to log into a system and initiate a report, and they can send the report all at once to the student and their entire support network. So any advisor that is connected to your student would be notified at the moment where your student might have some difficulties that they need some support with. And it comes right to their inbox. It comes right to their email. So let's make sure they're all checking their email. And anything like this, if they're not sure where to go, honestly, they can come to our drop-ins and we'll take it from there. We have drop-ins every day from 11 to 3, not on the weekends, Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. And we can connect them. If we're not the right place to help, we'll find the place. We're all very well connected across campus and can make sure they get the help they need if we're not necessarily the right folks to help. All right, and then, I kind of started talking about how you can help already, but I'll continue to talk about how you can help us help your student and how you can continue to help your student throughout their very successful college career at Bentley. Going back to the beginning, right? We want you to help challenge them to explore all of the options. You never know. I'm sure if you all think back to what your career story is, like how did you end up where you were? I know I didn't dream about being an academic advisor as a 5-year-old, right? I didn't know that was an option. So I'm always encouraging them to explore all their options. You never know where you might hit on something that is a super passion that aligns with everything you want to do in life. So explore the options, try something new. I do feel like a lot of times the type of student that might apply to a business school might feel like they know at 18 the exact path they want to be on, but let's challenge them to explore all these options and try something new, because you honestly never know where we're going to find that super passion for them or that super niche that makes them the happiest you've ever seen them, right? That's the goal. So we're going to challenge them, and then we're also going to support them because that's what we do, right? So obviously, I'm sure you ask them a lot of questions, but encourage them to ask questions of others. Encourage them to ask us questions if they have questions, ask questions in class if they don't understand something, ask questions of anyone for any reason. And, that's certainly a good way to start getting answers and to feeling more, connected. I think another piece of the support that I had forgotten to mention, because of the switch to online learning, I think students maybe do have to be a little more of a self-advocate right now, right? No one's going to walk by them on campus necessarily if they're learning remotely from China and notice that they might need something or ask them if they might need something. Students really do have to do a little more seeking. So a resource I did want to mention is the Keep Learning at Bentley website. Once we move on to the Q&A, I'm happy to put a link in the chat for you all, but you could also just type in Keep Learning @Bentley into the search box of the Bentley webpage, and it would come up. So we've sort of culled any resource we think would be helpful on campus, and maybe even it's, helpful tips and tricks that other experts have culled. So we want to be able to have one central place where, like, if there's something about this online learning that's not jiving, not syncing, we want this awesome resource to be here. So that's another great support, we can talk about. And then, of course, continuing to support them in discovering what their Bentley path is, because we're going to challenge them that they weren't sure about that when they got here, right? That's it. Hopefully this is what's going to lead them to success. And then, this is the easy part for you. You just get to sit back and enjoy it, right? You're going to watch how happy they are, how healthy they are, how successful they are, and you'll be astonished at the wisdom they've gained here throughout however long they're here. So I believe we've arrived at the Q&A, and we did just want to give you a little reminder of the quadrants that that we talked about today. I see there's already questions, right?
Yes, thank you, Megan and Valerie, so much for all that useful information. We do have time for a few questions, so I'll just dive right into them. We have a two-part question regarding the summer trimester. Are all courses offered during the summer trimester, and are academic support / learning centers open over the summer?
Well, I'll start with the guarantee. We're going to be there. We work full-time, 365. Well, not 365, right? But we work in the summer. Oftentimes at the end of the spring term, students will say, have a great summer. I'm like, we're here all summer. We're not going anywhere. So all of the supports that students have in the fall and the spring term are certainly going to be in place over the summer. They've always been there, even though there haven't really been many students around. In the summer, we generally are focusing on that brand new class coming in. But this summer we will, divide and conquer. We will focus on the brand new class coming in and the awesome amount of students that we still have on campus, and we still have maybe learning remotely still.
Yeah, and I think we'll see a shift in some of our programs and services because we're, accustomed to operating in a fall and spring model. In summer of 21 will be our first trimester that we've had in the summer where we might see a significant number of students taking summer courses. In summers prior was just, a handful of students in the evening. So over time, I think that will be flushed out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the first part of that question, as a place-based institution for about 100 years now, we have been accustomed to planning one term at a time. So we certainly are getting ready to announce exactly what's going to be offered in the spring term. That's almost done. It takes a good amount of folks to get that finalized and put into place. But in typical times, we would normally learn what's being offered over the summer closer to March. And we are certainly very hopeful that we'll have more information and, whether that's specific information or even more like, this department has committed to offer these courses. And then maybe there will be more announced later. We're hopeful we'll have more information on that soon, but at this time we don't have it.
Perfect. Speaking of the spring trimester, do you have a rough idea of when students will be able to register for their spring courses?
Yeah, the registration process takes place in November. There is an academic calendar. If you Google Bentley academic calendar, there's a separate academic calendar for fall 2020, and then there's a general one currently posted for calendar year of 21. But the registration dates for the fall are posted in the meaning the registration dates in November to register for spring classes are posted in the fall 2020 calendar. I believe they are Tuesday the 10th, Wednesday the 11th, and then the following week, the 17th and 18th. And so students will get more information as we get closer to those dates with their specific registration day and time.
Perfect.
And I'm happy to drop links. I have a lot of tabs open all the time. So I'm happy to drop some links in the chat. I think Zoom updates about every other day at this point, right? It's trying to keep up with us. I think you should be able to click the hyperlinked link and have it open in your own browser window. So hopefully this link sharing will be helpful.
That will be much appreciated, Megan. Thank you for that.
Sure.
I think we have time for a couple more questions here. So Megan and Valerie, let's say a student casually mentions that they might be interested in a major, let's say actuarial science, for example. Do you think it would be helpful for them to talk with an advisor to make sure that they're taking the right courses even in their freshman year?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's a perfect example of remember Valerie went through like, oh, this would be a drop-in question, this would be an appointment. That's an appointment question. We want them to have 30 minutes dedicated with a professional advisor to have that type of conversation. Because depending on what kind of prior credit somebody had, it is conceivable that they may be eligible to take a course or two inside that major in the spring term. They might not be, but let's check.
Okay.
And when it comes to something like actuarial science in first year courses, it's really just a matter of which math course the student is taking this term and next term to help stay on track for that particular major.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the next question is, what additional support are you offering in light of constraints of COVID? Some students may feel isolated as they cannot reach out to other students.
Well, I could speak about what we're doing for our incoming transfer class. This has been on my mind for 4 weeks now. How long have we been going? 4 weeks. Transfer students, and I would say new first year students too, you know, having to make social connections in a Zoom world it takes a lot of effort. So I know in transfer seminar, we're doing a lot to use that one time a week to help them connect with each other. I've certainly been experiencing some, okay, I'm giving you all this opportunity and you're still telling us you're experiencing, you know, that you're not having connections. I think maybe encouraging them at home, like we certainly have the opportunities here, but they do have to look for them. They do have to, you know, seek things out. So I have several students that are already attending group and club meetings, you know, even though we've only been here a few short weeks. And those students certainly had to pull up a portal and find out when these groups were meeting and research what they might be interested in. So it is a lot, you know, they can't just stumble into somebody's dorm room right now, especially if they're learning from China. So it is a lot on the student to reach out and find these things. But we have, you know, the groups and clubs has a portal for them all. And if you're spitting these things back to them and they're like, well, I don't know, everything is emailed to them, so they can search back through their email through the past 4 weeks and find these things. But I know in transfer seminar, and I'm sure in the first year seminar space, we're trying really hard to help them, you know, kind of force the social connection. So we'll put them in breakout rooms in Zoom. So it's not just like 25 talking heads. You know, we'll put them in groups of 4 or 5, and they'll have some type of assignment to do that's going to help them adjust to Bentley and work on something that's going to help them learn about Bentley. But we'll also give them a conversation question like, you know, talk about something that's going really well for you. You know, that's not a great example. That's more us trying to help them, you know, feel adjusted and connected to Bentley. But having them feel adjusted and connected to each other will encourage them to take a few minutes, you know, with our blessing to talk about, you know, what kind of music do they like, what kind of hobbies and interests. I find myself, you know, trying to think through, you know, what would I want for my child? She's only 3 right now. But those are the types of things that we're doing on an individual basis, and the university as a whole is certainly making anything we used to do in person, there's a virtual version of it, and they do just have to seek them out.
And also, if I could just add 2 quick things related to that. It does come up in our advising conversations quite often if a student's interested in a certain type of hobby or interest that, you know, I find that I'm oftentimes referencing, oh, did you know that we have a student organization that does exactly that? So yesterday I was talking with a student and they're into sustainability issues. And so I was pointing out, oh, we have a Bentley Green Society. Have you checked that out yet? And it wasn't on their radar at that point. The other thing that I just wanted to mention that this is not specific to our office, but from the Division of Student Affairs, you may have heard about the NEST program that's occurring. And so that is where members of our student affairs staff are working with students in groups to try to maintain some of those key connections that are part of a campus experience. And even though we've got so many students here, because that's so different, but to try to keep those connections going and help students still feel, you know, kind of tied into the larger Bentley community.
Awesome, thank you for that. And quickly, our last question, do either of you have tips on how a student should, or if a student would benefit from meeting with one of the advisors, how they should go about initiating a meeting, if they're scared or they're not willing to do it, but they really could benefit? Do you have any suggestions on how to go about that?
Well, I think, you know, the drop-ins might be a good starting point because they're quick, they're low-key, they're super casual. The advising appointments are pretty low-key as well. The other thing is, I think with the encouragement of, you know, the parents of the student, sometimes students learn about us through conversations with other friends, you know, if their roommate or their friend has just met with an advisor and found that helpful. But at the end of the day, I think just encouraging students that we are here, that, you know, our whole role is to meet with them and support them and help address their questions, and to just try it out and see, you know, if it's helpful. Because I think that they will find that it is, and it's just a matter of taking that first step. And they're already doing that in a variety of contexts, whether it's classes or student organizations. And so to jump on in, because we love to hear from them. It's why we do what we do.
Awesome. Meghan and Valerie, do we have time for one more quick question?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to explain why my attention was over here. I'm dropping you links. I have a link to the NEST program, and it looks like all students were emailed about this. Everything, that's going to be the answer to everything. They were sent an email about this.
Of course.
So they could certainly reach out to, you know, they could certainly reach out and still become a part of this NEST program. For sure. And then the other link I wanted to add for everyone was the student involvement. So you know, lots of direct links on here to how students can try to get involved more remotely or in person if, you know, there's an opportunity to do that.
So I'll ask this next question quickly, but it might be better suited for tomorrow's study abroad session at 11 a.m. For juniors considering taking the entire junior year abroad, do you have advice for keeping up with internship opportunities and other milestones that might happen while they're abroad?
Well, luckily, we're much more equipped to do everything remote right now, but students have been studying abroad for an entire year for a long time, the whole 10 years I've worked in this office. So really, it's about planning and taking this year to plan and make sure, you know, you've got a solid understanding of how to use all of Career Services online resources. We routinely have students, even if it's not a whole year abroad, if they're abroad for a term, they will have to interview from abroad for their summer internship opportunity. And they typically adapt to that beautifully. But even though they're not at Bentley, they can certainly still use all of the resources and stay connected to Bentley for sure. We encourage that.